Welcome to the High Rankings podcast, brought to you by Dispensary-Growth, the preeminent SEO agency for dispensaries. Each episode will dive into the world of search engine optimization for cannabis dispensaries. We'll discuss the latest strategies and tactics to help your dispensary rank higher on search engines and attract more patients and customers. So whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out, join us as we explore how to maximize your online presence and stay ahead of the competition in the rapidly growing cannabis industry.
Hello, we are back again with another episode. We're going to do something a little different in this episode, which I'm actually kind of looking forward to. We are on episode 51, over halfway to a century, which is amazing. So we thought we would do something where you could get to know us a little more. Well, I guess more about our work history and where we came from and how we met 10 years ago and how, for some unknown reason, we still speak to each other. And also show those of you who work in dispensaries or who are charged with running SEO for a dispensary or who somewhat maybe in the same kind of industry, but not quite sure which path you want to go down. But you don't have to come from a tech background to be successful with SEO or SEO in the cannabis world, because neither of us, in fact, came anywhere close to that in our previous life. So that's what we're going to talk about today. You'll get to know all about one of Charlie's very first jobs, which he just loved it. And you'll get to learn about where I actually started my career. And neither of us, it had nothing to do with where we are now. So before we dive into that, what is new in your world?
Yeah. Okay, so last week, by the way, it snowed over here in Denver at time of recording. We're in the third week of March. Actually, I think fourth week. So it snowed, so I kind of had poopy pants because I can't get on my bike. So I started physical therapy again for my shoulder. Shoulder hasn't been 100%. So I've got like a new workout. I got to do the open a refrigerator door, close the refrigerator door kind of movement, like locking your arm or locking your elbow close to your chest and then just moving your arm like side to side kind of thing. So I do those. Yeah. Went to the abs game over the weekend. That was fun. Saw some friends. Went over there for dinner. We locked out, got some box seats, which was pretty cool. And
fancy. You got fancy.
Key move. Yes, because the beer comes to you and you don't have to wait to use the bathroom.
Nice.
Yeah, cheap beer just makes me piss. Yeah, so that was cool. Abs smoked them. Abs are an absolute whack right now. I mean, that's a dangerous hockey team. They're very fun to watch too. So super fast team. A lot of fun, and we went out a little bit afterwards. And then I woke up the next day, I was just gassed. So I got home at like 1, which is way past my bedtime. And next morning, when did NC State? I watched that game. NC State's been on like the Cinderella for March Madness basketball. So NC State has been gone. I've been cheering for them. They pulled off an upset over Oakland, so they're in the Sweet 16, which is pretty cool. And I finished Succession, and I've been getting on you about watching the show because it's fucking awesome. Very well written, very good cast. The cast, it's based on Rupert, like loosely based on Rupert Murdoch, and his kids are just shitheads. Like they even call themselves like shitbags in the show. And I don't want to give anything away, so just watch it. It's really good. I finally finished that, and yeah, a little bit of work here and there, and then made it to the gym, and yeah, that's about it. How about you? What's been going on in your world? How's your kitchen? I already know the answer, but
it hasn't moved it's been another week and it hasn't moved. So yeah, that's where we're at. Allegedly,
it is what it is.
Allegedly, the tile guy is coming after work today, and he's going to grout the laundry room and the half bath. So still no tile in the kitchen, but apparently that's going to be done at some point this week, I hope. The reason I say that is because this weekend we're very busy. There's a guy who kind of sort of works with my husband, kind of sort of doesn't. It's complicated. But anyway, he is I really enjoy him. I think he's a really cool guy. He loves my husband. So his daughter is having a birthday party. And ordinarily, I'm like, no thanks, because she's like 6. And you know what I mean? Like things like birthday parties, baby showers, bridal showers. No, I'll happily send a present. Happily. Whatever you want is on your list. It's not about the money. I will happily buy anything off your registry. I'll happily buy your child a gift. But I do not want to waste a whole afternoon of my life sitting down watching somebody open a ton of gifts and oohing and ahhing every time. I just don't. It's just no thank you. Anyway, but I do really, really like this guy. And we gave his kids gifts for Christmas and stuff. I never met the kids, never met the wife. Just he's super nice. He's from Guyana. So the food is going to be off the chain because they make amazing use of spices and they make amazing curries and stuff. Yeah, so we're going to that on Saturday. And then Sunday is Easter. And if the weather is good, then we'll be out on the boat. And if it is not good, then we're going to go to my aunt's house and they're going to cook breakfast and stuff like that. So this weekend's busy, which means the tile guy can't come tile. I was like, if he doesn't come this weekend, it's a whole nother week. And at this point, because he's been sick, he legit's been sick. So anyway, my husband talked to him today. He's coming after work. So that's that. What else is new? I too am going to be having PT now. Yay. I am fortunate that I do not need to have surgery, which was like, I literally woke up at like 2 a.m. one morning, panicked, just like in an absolute anxiety moment because I don't want surgery. I've never had it. It freaks me out. I just was absolutely like convinced I was going to have surgery and I was stressing out. And so I went to see the ortho surgeon and he's like, I can't fix this. I was like, oh, great. He's like, it's not a fixable situation.
He just said nope.
Well, first of all, he's like, because my MRI was from a year ago and he's like, you have these options here. I can give you a steroid shot if you want, but I'd like you to do PT. Would you be willing to do PT? And I said, I will do anything, but I don't want to have surgery. It's literally what I said. His literal words to me was, I can't fix this. It's not a fixable injury. Surgery is only going to come into the equation if it's permanently affecting your legs and your mobility and la la la. So I have to do PT. And then when it flares up, it's a question of like, well, the PT should help it not flare up as much and make my back stronger. But then also if it does flare up, I'm literally back to what I was doing before, which is like naproxen, ibuprofen, and ice, because it's not fixable at the moment. So yeah, I have my first eval tomorrow. So that's what's happening.
Is this an hour long or is this like a half hour one?
The eval is an hour.
And then after that, they're half hour? And
then I'm not sure.
Okay. I think like with me, like they eval, of course, like, baseline, what are you doing now? How does it feel? Does this hurt? Does that hurt? You fill out, I guess, like a form kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then they give you do like a couple exercises and then he basically just gives you homework. Do this every other day. Do these exercises, 3 sets of 5, whatever. And you do that every other day. And then you come back like the subsequent week and then the next week. And that's like half hour. How does it feel? Show me how you do it. Okay, see ya.
Yeah, basically, they're going to do an eval, then I'm going to sit down and they're going to talk to me about how often they want me in there and what we're going to do, blah, blah, blah. Which, I mean, I'm kind of sort of, I don't know, because don't even get me started on insurance companies because I'll be here all day. But basically, I called my insurance company when I literally in the car park of the orthopedic guy and they told me, yeah, it's completely covered. 35 sessions is completely covered. Then I find out that's not in fact true and it's $72 a pop. Well, if they want me on my prescription, it says 2 times a week for 6 weeks. So like, that's a lot of money. Do you know what I mean? If it's literally them doing like core exercises and stuff, which is kind of where I think it's heading. If that's the case, I would rather take that money and buy and use it on a personal trainer at the gym who can not only work on my core exercises that my PT would be doing, but also help me work in other places. I would far rather do that than just $72 a pop to fucking do crunches or something. Do you know what I mean? So it's not, I have not ruled it out and I'm still very open-minded about it and very willing to do it. But if that is the route that it ends up going down, I will pull my money out of there and put it somewhere else.
So I go in Thursday I go in this week a couple days.
Yeah.
To my PT guy, and we actually talked about just meeting up at the gym and going over some exercises. Like I would rather do that than going to.
Yeah, and also I
It'd be
think
so
like
much easier. It's also like less than 10 minutes from where I live. The gym is, and his
yeah,
best friend goes there. Just like small world, his best friend goes there. I've actually talked to his best friend, not knowing who he is. Really cool dude too, but it's just like easier, and I also don't want to pay just like a matter of principle of like this or let this insurance company. I was being charged twice, once through the insurance company and then through the clinic. And this was end of last year, and I still haven't heard anything from the insurance company. So just matter of principle, I just avoid the clinic. So I know what you're saying.
But also I think if you like within any gym that you go to, there are obviously levels of personal trainers in the gym. And there are some who like, you know, you got your 90-year-old lady in there and she just wants someone to chat to for while she works out. But there's some who seriously have the education, who are specialized in recovery from injury, or they're particularly specialized in specific, like say weight loss, for example, or if you're trying to bulk up. So it's a question of finding the right one, you know, but they are out there. So, and like I said, I don't want to rule it out now and be like, no, it's terrible, I'm not doing it. I just, if it's going to be a question of that's the path they're going to walk down, I would pull my money and take it over to my new gym where I can incorporate that into the other goals that I have.
I hear you. Luckily, I've got a good PT guy. Like I like talking to him and everything, but I don't want to go there for more than 6 weeks.
Yeah, I hear you.
I'd rather just be done. So
yeah.
Anyway,
so that's about all that's new in my life. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that is new in my life that I could report to you. Kids are on spring break right now. For us, it's spring break anyway. I have a sleepover later on in the week with 2 14-year-old girls, so that'll be fun. Actually, this girl is super nice. Her parents are lovely. I've met her parents a couple times, super nice people. So, like I always say, she's welcome at our house anytime. So, yeah. But that's about it, I think. It's not really a whole lot to... What did I do? I feel like I did some... Oh, no, I didn't.
I just want to see you around. Like, I just want to see GoPro footage of you around children.
Dude, you've seen me around the kids plenty of times.
No, like other children.
Oh, I don't disturb them. They do their own thing. Like, I don't want to be that, like, parent that, like, I want them to have their own space and their own time and their own privacy. So if they're here for a sleepover, short of making sure they're still alive, making sure they're fed, and that they don't need anything, I literally leave them to their own devices because that's what I would have wanted at 14. I wouldn't have wanted someone running in my room every 5 minutes or thinking that they're the cool parent and wanting to hang out with me. Like, you know what I mean? No, I pretty much leave them alone. I make sure that they, you know, aren't killing themselves or anybody else. But outside of that, nope, you do your thing.
We had a friend that was like so like at 14 or 13, whatever it was. We had a friend that was like so scared of his parents getting involved. Of like wanting to watch TV, like a movie with us or play cards with us or something. He tried to like raise money to go to a hotel. You can't do that when you're 13 or 14 or whatever. Yeah, he had like an allowance and he like mowed lawns and everything. So good for him for, you know, raising the money. But like, dude, like let's just chill in the basement. Parents are actually pretty cool. So, I mean, I thought they were. Anyways, so we're chatting about the timeline of the agency of Dispensary Growth, or how we got here, correct?
But yeah, we're going to take a little bit of a deep dive into our illustrious careers thus far. Obviously, me being 21, mine's not as long as yours. I think the idea is like we want you to get to know us a little bit more, but also see where we've come from and where we are now. So if you are about to embark on a role within SEO or you want to embark in SEO, that you don't feel like it's so daunting to do it, because as you'll find out, we did not
come from tech.
Yeah, we wouldn't be the 2 people that you'll be like, they're going to make it within the SEO world. Like, it wouldn't be us. So, yeah, I just thought it'd be kind of, because we've kind of like referenced it a bit throughout the episodes we've done, but we've never really fully done a like, hey, this is us type thing. And I was like, you know what, rather than doing like a structured, like boom, boom, boom podcast, let's do something a little different. It'll be a bit more chatty, but obviously we'll follow the chronological order of where we are and everything. But I just thought, let's just do something different.
So where do we start then?
Well, I think we start with the first job you had, and then we'll do my first job and we'll kind of go from there.
Okay, the first job I had, so my dad he's an auto mechanic by trade. So as he says, This is a quote from my dad. It's like such a dad thing to say. He says, I don't fix cars. I outsmart machines. And like, I'll never forget that. So dad is a car mechanic by trade. I worked at his shop and I did that for not a year, probably 9 months.
Was this like straight out of high school?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like post high school, so like summer. And the shop was like really close to my parents' house. I used to like ride my bike there sometimes. Like if it was nice out. It's like a neighborhood shop. There's 3 bay doors. And also, this is before Google, where you can like just like now you just hop into Google and like my Audi makes a weird noise when I start, and you get an answer in like 5 minutes. Like back then, you actually had to problem solve, critical thinking, and like diagnose something. And you look under the hood. Okay, this is connected to this. This carbuncle makes this carbuncle do this. Yeah, like you actually had to know vehicles. And turns out it's really hard to work on cars. Also, you have to have really strong hands. And I have bitch hands. Yeah, it just didn't work. So
you're just not a manual labor type dude.
Like my dad jokes. My dad says, "I'm so glad you didn't work on cars." And like I always say the same thing. Like, yeah, I'm just too soft to work on cars. My dad always starts laughing. But he has hands like a bunch of bananas. Like his hands are freaking massive. He has hands like Tony Robbins. Like he used to pick me up on my skull when I was little and just like move me around. Like those claw machines. You know, like he used to do that with my head and just like move me around.
Wow.
He just has, I mean, he's been doing it for 50 years. Those hands are freaking massive. So no, I'm not a manual labor guy. So I always joke, like I would just code a machine to do it for me. And then he would just start laughing. So
that was that like a high school summer type job? That wasn't like your first full-time job?
No, that was my first full-time job. And then that's when I realized, there's a funny story. I think I told you this. When I realized like, wow, like, okay, this is like real life. But at the same time, I don't want to work for somebody else. The owner, my boss, you know, it's a small business. He said, hey, take these papers and shred them. I said, okay. And he gives me like a stack, like an encyclopedia stack of papers. And he just said, all right, go shred them. I said, okay. Go in the back, take a shredder. And I'm feeding the shredder just one by one, like page by page by page. This is so done. Like, I'm going to be here for like 2 hours. Like, I get why he's telling me to do this. So I burned them. I put the stacked papers in a barrel and burned them. And it took like not even 5 minutes. And I was like safe about it. I made sure there's water nearby and there's nothing, you know, there's no oil, of course. There's no oil nearby that would catch on fire or anything like that. I was super safe. And I just burned them. And he freaked out and he like lost his mind. And looking back on it, like I get it. He wanted me to shred the papers, but the end result is still the same. It's just the input is different than what he said. The end result is the same. There's no more papers. And he freaked out and he almost fired me. And I remember thinking to myself, this is what it's like to work for somebody else. So yeah, it was that point that I knew, like at some point in my life, like I'm going to start my own company. And then shortly after, I didn't work there much longer. I was fired.
Okay, I was thinking about this. Did he have a reasonable explanation as to why you should have shredded it and not burned it?
No, he just said shred them.
Because like there's something to be said for like the fact that you didn't follow exactly what he said, right?
Yeah, I get that.
There's an element of that. But there's also the element of like, if there was no reasonable explanation for why you couldn't have burned them and you got the same result just more efficiently, then it could be that he's just stuck in his ways and he's unwilling to like be malleable and like open to different suggestions, in which case it would be a losing battle every time. You know what I mean? That's why I was asking.
Yeah, like, I mean, that's basically what my dad said. He actually kind of laughed. He's like, yep, that sounds like him. Like, I don't know what the big deal is. The end result is the same. I just took a different street to get there. I don't know why it's such a big deal. So anyway, from there to, I did the College Pro Painters for a bit.
The what?
College Pro Painters. I don't know if you have that in Florida.
Painting?
Yeah, College Pro Painters.
Did more manual labor after.
Shut the fuck up. Well, okay, so this is when I was like very young and trying to like figure I didn't know that I wasn't built for manual labor yet. I didn't know that. It was actually pretty cool to like stand back for a second, like, wow, like I painted the house. Like, that's pretty cool. Now I would just put a brush on a drone and just fly it around the house with like a sprayer on a drone or something. Yeah. I guess that's a thing now. But back then, yeah, like I'd show up and yeah, I could paint the house and it was pretty cool. I thought it was cool. And then you could like, I used to like take apart because we had to be super safe because, you know, the company doesn't want to get sued. So we had to be super safe. But back then I used to take apart the ladders the giant ladder, like the two, I forgot what they're called. The ladders where it's like two pieces of a ladder like tied together with like pulleys, like 30-foot ladders, like the big ones.
Yeah. Okay.
I used to take them apart, take the rope, tie it around my waist, take the other end of the rope, tie it around the chimney, and just basically like belay around the house and just paint the house. And we knock it out in like 3 days, way under budget too. As far as like hours, I'd have like 2 days off that we didn't like plan for. So we just had like 2 extra days off. It was pretty freaking cool. And, the homeowners, generally speaking, the homeowners weren't home, when you're painting a house, exterior, not interior, exterior. They were not home. So we started early in the morning, painting the house. And then, by like 3 or 4, I was covered in paint, of course. And like I remember my dad, basically, he always thought I was kind of an idiot, which I am, but he's kind of like Red Foreman. He didn't call me a dumbass, even though he should have. But I remember like I'd come home like covered in paint and everything, and my dad's like, "Yeah, how was work?" And I kind of like look at him like, "Yeah, like it was cool." Meaning like he didn't think I was such a dumbass because I was actually doing like like hard work. Yeah, painting houses is no joke. That is like hard freaking work. So that was cool. Like I said, you can stand back and see like I painted a house, and then I feel like that was really long-winded. That was when I was like obsessed with hockey. So I started working at a hockey store, and sick discount, by the way, very good discount. Worked there for 4.5 years, and I was playing hockey like 4 or 5 nights a week, which is a lot. And there's good skates around too, because I knew everybody that came into the store, and then eventually everybody needs a goalie. So I got invited to a skate with like ex-pros, ex-Hall of Famers. I was really, really past hockey. So that was cool. And from there into where I got into cannabis was a independent.
Stop. Sorry to interrupt you, but I had a really weird question, and I can't believe in 10 years I've literally never asked you this question.
Yeah.
Why goalie?
Okay, so I would show up as a forward, just like a normal skater to these drop-ins.
Yeah.
Drop-in is where, the rink says we have ice from 11:30 to 1.
Yeah.
And it's open to the public. Whoever shows up, you pay $10.
Okay.
And so I would do that. And I would score on this goalie. Like it was great to have a goalie out there because they're like hard to come by during the day at that time. And I would score on this goalie, and he'd chirp me. He was like, "Oh, that was a lucky shot." Like, "Oh, you can't do that again." Like, "Yeah, I bet I could do it again." I go down there and score on him again. And I'd chirp him like, "Yeah, where were you on that one? Huh? I couldn't stop a beach ball." And we just chirp each other. And then he said, "I bet you couldn't play goalie." I was like, "Yeah, I bet I could. All you do is stand there." Like, it's not that fucking hard. You literally just stand there in the net. And then we switched pads one time. That's what I said to him. I was like, "It's not like you literally just stand there in the net. You stand there for like most of the game." I don't know, like, what's so fucking playing goalie is very hard, by the way.
Yeah, that's why I was like, you said that to his face.
Oh yeah, we were like chirping on the ice, like we're just going back and forth. And so one skate we switched pads, so I switched into his goalie pads. Actually, didn't do too bad. Even he was like, "Yeah, I didn't think he'd be that good." And I was like, "Yeah, dude, I just stand there." We both started laughing, and I ended up buying his pads, and then I saved my money and bought some other pads after that. So, meaning, why did I play goalie? Because everybody needs a goalie. Every skate needs a goalie. So you will always play, and you're on the ice the whole time. And it's a really good workout for your legs.
I was going to say, because your legs are like, I said this before I knew you, and now I know you. It's just odd for me to say this, but like I remember going to like hockey games for the Lightning, because that is like my local team, and watching the goalie warm up was something. That much
at one point, so when I was little, my mom put me in gymnastics, basically just to get me out of her hair. And at one point, I was pretty limber. Like I could do the splits. It really helps to be limber, to be flexible. And if you're a goalie, you're kind of doing yoga on ice sometimes. So
yeah, and like if you don't warm up properly, the damage you're going to do to like literally
it's brutal.
From like groins, hips, knees, thighs, like
it is brutal.
Yeah.
So I was doing these high level skates. I mean, those are stories in itself. Like first time I played with like a Hall of Famer. I grew up watching this guy play hockey, and I'm playing with him. Like that's pretty cool. Let's see, from the hockey store, then I answered a Craigslist ad at an independent publisher here in Denver, saying they're looking for a sales superstar wanted. And it's like, what do you do after retail? You get into sales, right? So answered that. It was not what I was expecting, but of course, like I really needed the job. So did that. And turns out you had to cold call, cold email, prospect you had to find your own leads, and then you had to figure out how to get to the CEO or the decision maker. Then you had to pitch them, then you had to close them. The whole time, like, you're pitching ads in a magazine. So very antiquated, like literal no value item or product. You're pitching a decision maker on why they should buy from you. So I had to figure that out. And that was 4 years. Learned, the ins and outs. I learned a lot. I learned a lot while working there, and then quit.
And that is where you met me. You're missing out the most important part of this
I
story.
purposely left that out.
That is where our 10-year plus friendship began. Isn't that beautiful? Well, actually, I wasn't even in the same state, but yeah, that's where it began. Where you were lucky enough to.
Okay, I will pause there and then you catch up to where I feel like that was really long-winded, but I will pause there and then let you catch up to where I am, and then.
Okay, so I will go for my path, and I'm literally going to go for my path since I moved here. I'm not going to go back and, when I was in high school, because nobody cares. Nobody will have heard of these places. It's a different country. So I moved here, and for the first however many years, I was unable to work. So I volunteered full-time at the Clearwater Marine Aquarium, where I worked with stingrays, weirdly enough, river otters, dolphins, and a variety of other animals. Because I couldn't work, but I was not going to sit on my ass all day and do nothing. So I did that. Met one of my closest, longest friends I've ever had at that job. And anyway, so my first working job, there was a British pub that no longer exists here. And I had been going there as like just a customer, and then I got a job basically waitressing, because one side was like a bar and one side was like a restaurant. So I think I first got a job like waitressing, and then like moved into bartending and waitressing. And through there, I met somebody who was working in the publishing industry, and the owner of the company she worked for was English. And I was the only English person working in this English pub, by the way. That was what was weird about it. Anyway, long story short, I ended up working for this company, but like initially was brought in to be this other girl's assistant, but I never really was. I mean, we worked together a lot, but I never really was her assistant, because I ended up going into like the financy side of it. So I ended up doing like all of the payroll, which commissioned payroll, if you've never done it, is an absolute bitch, because you have to deal with, like, you get your hourly staff and your salaried staff, that's easy peasy. But then you get your staff who get a commission. And if they don't earn enough commission, they get draws. So you have to deal with draws. Then you have to deal with commissions that are on a tier basis. So this is a publishing company. It's very much along the same lines as what the company me and Charlie met at. Almost the exact same, actually. They were selling advertisements in magazines, but all of these magazines were magazines that they were military magazines, but they weren't sanctioned by the military. So they weren't like official military magazines, if that makes sense. So the sales guys, so most of the company was sales guys selling the ads. And then there were a few of us that were on like the operational side of things. So I started out doing like HR type stuff and payroll. Doing commissions is an absolute nightmare when it comes to payroll, because it's like percentages based, who's had what draws, bonuses, like it's not easy. And then all of the accounts I did. And throughout this time, I taught myself bookkeeping because I didn't know how to do it. I taught myself how to use QuickBooks. When I started this company, they were literally doing their accounting on green accounting paper with pencils and erasers, and took them through Excel. I moved on to Excel, and then from there I taught myself QuickBooks and bookkeeping and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, so I did that job for a long time, and I worked my way up through that company as high as you could go for a small company type deal. And then I left there and I briefly went to a company that was owned by the parents of a friend of mine, which was sales. And sales is not my thing, has never been my thing. And the first company was going downhill rapidly, but only because of like personal issues that were going on with owners. And I just needed to get out. It wasn't healthy. So that's why I went to my friend's parents' company, who gave me way more grace than they should have done, by the way. Like, I shouldn't have been there as long as I was. I'm not a sales type person. I think you either are or you're not, and I'm not. Like, flat out, I'm not. But whilst I was there and like right towards the end of like, I think we all knew it was coming to an end, the owner of the first publishing company I worked for was friends with a man who was just starting his own publishing company, and he had contracts for official things. I'm not going to name the names of the organizations that he had contracts with, but he had contracts with, so these were official publications at this point. And the first boss said to the second one, this is the girl you need, call her, you can't function without her. Basically, this is who you want to help you run. So he brought me in and I ran all of the operations. So it would be everything from, I don't know, like the sales guys did all the selling and I did everything else. So HR, payroll, accounting, making sure shipping, ordering paper to be printed, making sure it's on the print schedule, like everything operationally. Obviously, there were people that helped me throughout that, but it fell on my shoulders. So I worked there for a long time. And I don't know, you've only ever worked with one company within publishing, and I don't know if it's all companies, but there's just this level of toxicity that is insane. And it was great for the first few years. We were doing so good. And then there was me and my counterpart in sales, who still friends with to this day. And we were saying, we need to do this, 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 and this. If we don't do this, this, and this, and this, we're going to run into issues. And the owner refused to listen to us. And that's exactly what happened. So I resigned. And I went to work for my aunts doing property appraisers. So I was like, total change of plan, going to go do something totally different, going to go work with my aunts and do property appraising for a hot minute, for a while. And then my friend from the second publishing company, who was my counterpart in sales, calls me and says, hey, I'm working at this company. I really would like you to come work over here and handle operations, because there's a lot of things that are not tight and they're not handled well, and you can come in and handle them. And so I went to that company and I worked in Florida, in Clearwater in Florida, but the company was based in Denver, Colorado, and that's where I met Charlie. So I came in and I was overseeing all of the operations. So nothing to do with sales, but back to operations of everything from finances, HR, anything operational you can think of. I handled or touched in some way. And that is where I met Charlie. Actually, I met you, Charlie, when I was working at the second publishing company, because I met you in January of 2014, and we didn't work together for a few years after that. But yeah, Charlie showed me around Denver, and it's funny because I don't like a lot of people.
I don't think you like anybody.
I don't like a lot of people. A lot of people get on my nerves. And on paper, Charlie would not be a person that I would be like, we're going to be friends for a long time. You would never put the two of us together whatsoever. But of everybody that I worked with at that company, Charlie was hands down my favorite, like literally hands down. Anytime I went to Denver, like I spent most of my time with Charlie, whether it was like in the office or whether it was outside of the office. But like literally my favorite person to work with at that company, which is funny because like, on paper, we do not mix, so I don't really get how it works, but it does. And then, did I leave before you? I think I left slightly before you, but not by much, right? Is that how that worked?
No, I was leaving first.
I know I left first because nobody was told I left. Remember?
No, I left first because you were texting me and you say, if you ever come back, which I don't think you will, you're going to have to find a new office, something along those lines. I had the corner office, not a big deal.
Oh, okay.
But yeah. I don't know I think we both like secretly hated working there.
Yeah.
And
Very
we
toxic.
knew it was, toxic bullshit because it's, sales is sales. It's like very alpha, at least that industry. I do miss like how competitive it is, like being the top sales guy. Thank you. And you do have a target on your back, and boss knew that. And so he would like, you're going to let Charlie take salesman of the month again. And it's so stupid. Like, it got so old. It was just noise after a while. Great skill to learn, I will say, because we would not be in this position. I hate to say if it weren't for that, but yeah, there's just a whole bunch of bullshit which we shouldn't get into.
Can I just say though, I will say one thing, and this applies to all three publishing companies that I have worked for, that I always didn't understand why you guys kept working there was, and this is, I swear, across the board. And I don't know if it's every publishing company or whatever, but you guys would be given a breakdown of like how much you needed to sell to earn a certain percent of commission, right? If you sell $5,000, you get 5% commission. If you sell $10,000, you get 10% commission, right? You were always given like the breakdowns of where you needed to be to sell what to earn however much money, right? You were always given that. And every single company I worked for, all three of them moved those goalposts on you sales guys all the time. And it would be after you've done a deal. And it used to drive me absolutely bananas. And I used to think to myself, why do these guys deal with this shit? Because you go into a deal thinking, oh, if I can close this client for $10,000, I can make 10%. And therefore I know that my rent's covered, or this is covered, or that's covered. And then you do the deal, right? And then all of a sudden the goalpost has changed. And I'm telling you, it happened at all three publishing companies I worked at. And I never understood why you guys kept working there, because I thought that was absolute horseshit. And it always fell on me to be the one to break the bad news, because I always did commissions and all the rest of it. It used to drive me nuts. So the fact that you guys stayed as long as you did, even you being top sales guy, they still moved the goalposts all the time. Like,
yeah, I got tired of it. And it was just, like I said, it's a great skill to learn. And there is something you said too for always having your foot on the gas. But after a while, just like you're burned out. And then also knowing this is not a blanket statement, that the project they were working on presented zero value to the advertisers. It's more of just like getting your commission in. And that is not the way to properly do business, because we are on the front lines hearing we're getting like no return from our ad. Like if we hear that now, which we don't because we report this monthly, we can show return in less than 3 minutes from our services, right? Like just going to Google Analytics, e-commerce, right? Like, okay, you give us $1, we give you $40. And here's proof of that. The magazine, you can't do that. They're just like, they're cool, they're sexy. It's like cool being a magazine, but it's basically like a waste of money. And I didn't want to be in that industry anymore. And I was just done. Learned a lot, like I said, but just ready to be out of there. I was so set on getting out of there that I didn't even know what I was going to do next. I had no idea. None.
Yeah, because
and that's when
I think magazines, they had their heyday for sure. 100% had their heyday. Like that was where it was, and like the only thing that you can prove with a publication, magazine, whatever you want to call it, literally is distribution numbers. That's all you got. Whereas what we do now, it's like literally, like you said, in 3 minutes, you can pull up and show exactly the kind of progress that's being made and exactly what the client's getting for their money. That just was not. All you could do is like, well, I printed 10,000 copies and this is where I sent them.
And that's assuming that those numbers are accurate and not inflated.
Well, there's that too. Yeah.
Which
or like,
they were.
We have this many subscribers. What do they call them? Not subscribers. People that get magazines all the time. I guess subscription probably is the right word. But we have 15,000 subscribers. Okay, but do they use the magazine for like lining the bottom of their bunny cage, or like do they open it? Like at least with what we do, you exactly know who's looking at it, and for how long, and then where they go after they've clicked on that page,
where they are, what they do, what they buy, what they don't buy. Like you can literally track everything. This was just nothing. So I wanted to get out. I didn't know what I wanted to do next. And this is also when like cryptocurrency was really climbing, not just in media, but in value. And I was learning a lot about blockchain, which by the way is a fascinating technology. And I quit not knowing, again, what I was going to do next. And I was texting you. Actually, you were texting me, hey, you're okay. And I think I would respond back, yeah, I was, until you texted me. So leave me the fuck alone.
That sounds about right.
And you're like, because I had like bad migraines. I just had really bad headaches.
Well, that's probably yeah.
Yeah. And then I think that's when you said like, hey, if you ever come back, which I don't think you will, the boss says you have to find like a new office or, something like that. It's like, okay, well, fuck it. Like, I'm going to go learn something actually valuable. So I was out.
I love that was his concern though, because thinking about it now, it would have been me that texted you because he wasn't going to do it. And everybody knew like how good friends we were. But I love that his concern was to not make sure that your well-being was good and that you were healthy and mentally okay. It was to inform you that you had now lost your prestigious corner office.
Not a big deal.
Like that's where his head was at. I'm like, okay.
Which literally like nobody cared. Like nobody fucking cared. In fact, I'd prefer to work from home, actually. So I didn't have to hear any of that bullshit. And yeah, it was time to get out. Got out, learned how to code just from doing it, and YouTube and blogs and, starting projects and everything. Fast forward a bit, realize, okay, if I know how to sell and I know how to code, then I can make my own thing and sell it. That's kind of the dream. Turns out it's a lot more complicated than that, but I got my first
Love you
client.
just like, yeah, I just learned how to code. Like, it's no big thing.
That whole thing that's a whole mind fuck in itself. If anybody's ever tried to learn how to code on their own, it's like, yeah, go about it softly because it is a huge, deep hole. Huge rabbit hole is how I describe it. Huge rabbit hole. So great skill. I think in entrepreneurship, the number one skill I think is knowing how to sell. The number two most critical skill I think is knowing how to learn, how you learn, visual, doing, research, whatever. And then the third most valuable skill is knowing like the basics of coding. You don't have to be like CTO or like a senior software engineer or anything like that, but just knowing the basics. So did some projects. Nobody would hire me, which I get. And I said, all right, well, fuck it. I'm going to do this myself. Start cold calling and cold emailing and got a client, did a project, turned out pretty good. And did it again, and then again, and then again. And then I had a client ask me, okay, cool. Like we've got this cool website. Now, how do we get people here? And I was like, he said, oh, it's SEO, right? I had no clue what it was. This is like just before COVID. And he said, oh, SEO, right? And I said, yes. No idea what he meant. Looked it up. Oh yeah, I've heard of this. Okay. And then I went into that rabbit hole and basically obsessed over it. By obsessed, I mean like 14 hours a day for like,
I mean, let's be honest. You literally did not leave your house for almost 2 years. You DoorDashed everything. You Uber Eated everything. I remember at some point having multiple conversations with you about the fact that you just need to get out and you just need to socialize and you need to do something because you sat in your house for 2 whole years at this point.
Yeah, it's not easy. Like, so I have an like obsessive personality. Luckily, I just didn't get into drugs. So like I was obsessing over learning how to code. And it's pretty cool. Like when you learn how to code, or you learn like algorithms, like making something appear on a screen, like, oh, wow, that's pretty badass. I wonder what else I can do. Then you get like even more obsessed when you learn more. Then you just dig deeper into this black hole. So yeah, I didn't leave the house for like quite a while. And like the ongoing joke was like, oh no, we're quarantined. I can't leave the house. Oh no. Okay. Well, I haven't left the house in a year already. So not that big a
It's
deal.
not going to change anything.
Yeah. And then started focusing less on web design, kind of scaled, made my first hire, and then really focused on SEO and really just like hard focused in that lane of search engine optimization. And got a client that does marijuana cards, medical marijuana cards, and had some really good results the first couple months. And then he said, yep, all right, let's keep going, but we want more. And then the next month he said, all right, we want more. Give us more. And then as they were growing, we were growing. We kind of joked that we scaled each other's companies.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when you came on. I was like, hey, Caz Potts, can you make sense of all this? Because I'm stupid. So yeah, I like need your expertise. And yeah, that's basically how that started.
Pretty much.
We got an introduction to a dispensary from that marijuana card company. And the dispensary said, we want to rank for these keywords. Here's our customers. Here's where we want to hit. And it was almost identical to the marijuana card company. And we said, okay, there's something here. We made them a great website, great platform, great results, awesome people. And then Caz Potts and I talked about just before 2022, I believe it was, like Q3 of 2022. Like, hey, like, what do you think about just niching down? Like only working with dispensaries, giving like state regulations and like, you know, they're so restricted on advertising and marketing. SEO is really, generally speaking, like their only avenue to get more customers. What do you think about that? And we kind of tossed around the idea and worked with another dispensary and we got the same results, which were very good. And we said, all right, let's do it. Let's do a spin-off agency from a generalist agency, which is what we were before. We'd work with anybody. Now we only work with dispensaries, sophisticated dispensaries, high functioning dispensaries. And that's where we are now. So hopefully that isn't too long winded, but I say we kind of fell into it. And it was definitely a learning process, a learning journey of, okay, here's how you do SEO, but here's the value that we need to bring to a client, in this case, a dispensary. Here's how you do it. Here's what they're looking for. And here's why they would do it again. So that's been a whole process as well. And I'm sure I'm leaving a lot of things out, I'm sure, but.
Yeah, you're leaving out how hard it was. And what I mean by that is like how hard you worked to get even to a point of having the initial big fish, I guess you could call it, client that we had who had the marijuana cards. Like, I think you're leaving out how hard you worked, because you're like, oh, and then I did this, and then I did this, and then I did this. But you solidly worked so hard to get your company going. Maybe you had some luck in terms of your first client that was, paid pretty well, but like, you worked so hard and you had to teach yourself so much stuff that, like, I think you just skipped over that. But I was on the sidelines. I wasn't working with you then. I was on the sidelines. But I remember,
so what was it from your point of view? Because to me, it was like, kind of what you're saying, like, it's kind of, I guess, funny. I remember calling a client one time right before his dinner. He was at a restaurant, and the first thing he says is, dude, do you ever not work? And then I kind of laughed. He goes, you can do this tomorrow. No, dude, I'm just going to get out of the way right now.
No, like because we weren't working together at all. Like, we were not working together. You were working on this thing that I didn't really understand what the hell you were doing, honestly. And I don't know where I was working at the time. Oh, I think I was in property management doing their accounting and a bunch of other stuff. But we weren't working together at the time, but we talked like basically every single day. And there were times when you were like, hey, I have this meeting coming up. Can you like take your lunch break and just hop on the meeting, just be a second voice? Like, because we were trying to, I say we, but I didn't work there yet, but you were trying to give the impression that like the company was bigger than just you. And of course, I don't know a goddamn thing. Like, I literally know nothing. And I'd be like, send me a quick brief thing of like what this company does, so I can act like I know. And then I would drive to this park that was near my office, and I'd be on my, I'm so sorry I can't Zoom with you. I'm literally in between clients right now, but I'm here. Like, that was kind of stuff we did. Like,
I totally forgot about that, by the way.
Yeah, because but that's what I'm saying. Like, the things you did, like, you worked so hard to get this company off the ground. Like, you never give yourself enough credit. And I understand, like, you don't want to be like, oh, I'm the big shit, but you literally never give yourself enough credit for how hard you worked. And I know that, we joke about you living in your house for 2 years, but that's literally what happened. But I say all of that to say that it is work ethic that gets you where you're going. So if you are in charge of SEO now, or you're about to be, or you want to dive into the world, you have to understand that in order to be successful, you have to have a work ethic. Charlie just blasts over it like, oh, and then I learned how to do this. And then someone said SEO. So I was like, sure, I'll do SEO. Like, that comes with hard work and dedication and a willingness to want to do the job. And like, there was a lot of changing direction in terms of where he started out when he left the publishing company to where he is now. But also that came with a lot of trial and error. Like, there were a lot of mistakes that we've made along the way, but every single one of them, we have learned from that. And that's either meant that we've pivoted on what we were planning on doing, or we've learned a way to do it quicker or more effectively. And I don't want you to think like it was smooth sailing, because it wasn't. But every mistake that we ever made, we have never made it twice. I will tell you that. And every time we start to beat ourselves up about, oh man, like, we always remind ourselves, but like, listen, it might not have turned out the way we wanted it to, or it might have cost us more money than we wanted it to cost us, or, oh, we probably should have researched that first. Sometimes you don't learn until you make those mistakes anyway. It's not necessarily something that, you would learn without making that error. So it definitely been a lot of trial and error. We've worked with some people that we would never work with again. We've been treated in ways that we would never accept to be treated like that again. And for example, we only work now with prestige dispensaries because we've worked with brand new companies, not within the cannabis space, but brand new companies. And for us, it's not worth it, especially if companies don't understand the importance of what you're doing, or they don't have the budget of what you're doing.
It's a very, very different dynamic with startups.
Yeah.
And we get to the place where we turn away dispensaries I literally never thought would happen, like a million years. So like we have been through a bunch of shit. It's funny you look back. I know it sounds cliche, but like, it's funny you look back on that. You kind of giggle about on your lunch break. And I think I PayPal you like your hourly wage or something, or like buy you lunch too. And I don't remember what it was, but that's funny. But like, you just have to, you must want to learn a certain discipline or skill or whatever it is. In that case, ours was SEO, and just became obsessed with it.
And then you had to teach me it, because I didn't know the first thing. We would jump on a Zoom call first thing in the morning and you would walk me through how to identify keywords, where to find them, what we're looking for, how to build an outline, like what makes a good outline, why you don't want to do this. Like everything you had just learned over the last 18 months, you then had to teach me how to do it.
Yeah, that too. And luckily we've got a very good lead analyst who is a badass. Bless your heart, CJ. You're freaking awesome. And yeah, I mean, she shows us things now, which is amazing. Yeah. And we just kind of scaled it from there. And yeah, here we are. We're episode 51.
Yeah. So I guess had it not been for that very big client with the cannabis cards, do you still think you would have ended up in the cannabis space? Or do you think...
Good question. Probably not.
On the very, very surface of it, if someone who doesn't know much, to me, the cannabis industry makes the most sense because you cannot advertise it on Google.
For dispensaries and kind of other brands too. But would we have gotten into dispensaries? Probably not, now that I think about it, because we worked on that project. We worked with that client for so long. I mean, it's over 2 years, I think.
Yeah.
We learned so much about the customer, not just about, the marijuana card, that as an industry, but we learned more about the customer's attention, how to get it, where are they, what do they do, what do they look up, what keywords in different states. Haven't been through that process. Yeah, probably not. Answer your question, I highly doubt it. I think we would have figured something else out.
Yeah, I've no doubt that we would have done. Because it's not enough to be like, oh, well, you live in Denver, so it was an obvious option, because it really wasn't an obvious option at the time, if that makes sense. Like, I think maybe because you're in a market that is so saturated that it really wasn't that obvious to you.
It was not obvious, and we were still learning on how to report our services too. Where it's easier, I say this now, it wasn't that easy back then. It's easy to report our value now with different menu technology. You can kind of do it with Google Analytics e-commerce with attribution. You can kind of do that, but I didn't know how to do that back then. So had I known that back then, we'd probably still be working with them. And so much of it is market timing too, but probably not. The whole roundabout answer to that, probably not.
Wonder what we would have been doing.
I don't know. I mean, we would have screwed up probably 5 things, made 4 things work. Of those 4 things, we would have narrowed down to just 1.
Yeah, but I think as long as you're willing to try, as long as you're willing to screw up and understand that a screw up doesn't mean that it's the end all be all and that's it, done. I think as long as you're willing to walk through that, I think, it's definitely worth a shot. If you truly believe in, not to be kumbaya and stuff, but if you truly believe in what you're doing, one mistake, one setback, one bad thing is not going to derail you. It might just change your focus for a bit, but it's not going to, like I said, we made a lot of errors. And every time you have to take that positive and be like, okay, well, now we know that next time we onboard a company, we'll do this. Or next time we won't do that because it wasn't worth it.
One thing I learned from, one of the many things I learned from working with the marijuana card company business was ready, fire, aim. Okay, do you like the idea? All right, let's say yes. All right, we'll figure it out. We're going to jump and then build a plan on the way down, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And okay, if you have the just general scope of a position, do we niche down to an agency? Do we not? Okay, yeah, mistakes are just a part of the path. Some potholes are going to be on the street, but you can avoid them as long as you have the right team around you. And we just made it work. So I don't know what we would be doing if we didn't fall into dispensaries. One good question.
I don't know which one came first, but I do remember when we were originally talking about niching down, you had given me the example of it was an SEO agency and all they did was SEO for lawyers.
Yeah, personal injury lawyers.
So even then, the idea, the foundation for the idea didn't even come from within the cannabis industry. The foundation of the idea came from, look at this SEO agency, look at what they do. They niche to a very specific market audience. We can do the same. Let's do it.
And it works.
Let's do cannabis. Because then I think you're taken a lot more seriously within that particular, market because you just know it so well, If you've got 3 or 4 or 5 different things going on and you're in the car dealer market and then you're in veterinary medicine and it's not that you don't know SEO because you can still know SEO really well, but how well do you know the market and the market trends and what's coming up and what to be on the lookout out for. And like just a couple of weeks ago, we were doing content outlines for a client. And I'm like, hold on a minute. It's like early March. Let's think about something for 420 because you know the market so well. You know the timing and you know when it needs to be done, versus if you're doing it for all kinds of stuff, you're not that close to it.
Exactly. And the guy that started that agency, which is like, that's like the prime example, like in the SEO space, everybody knows that guy as the guy that started kind of that idea. I think it's been 11 years now. But yeah, massively successful, hugely successful. He wrote a book. Of course, I bought the book like the day it came out on Amazon. Great book. And he talks about, just being a subject matter expert, like the go-to. If Dispensary Growth is pitching against like 3 other agencies, I can almost guarantee generally that they're not as niche down as we are. And we're looked at as the experts because we are in our space. So it's almost a good thing. Like I want us to go toe to toe with other agencies because they're generalists. They're not experts like we are. But yeah, there's a lot of those. He calls it niching up, not niching down. So he says the narrower the market, the bigger the prize is what that is about.
He's not wrong by any means.
He's not wrong. It's more of like your expertise is so deep in that space that it's also easier on like operational side, which as you know, that's your space. There's just less fuckery to deal with, right? Versus
for sure.
SaaS SEO, lawyer SEO, plumber SEO, contractor SEO. It's like, okay, we only do dispensaries. So it's a lot cleaner.
And also, like we did this episode right before you went on vacation where we did the State of the Union, but per state, in terms of marijuana. We're also in an industry market that changes so much, and it changes per state, and sometimes it changes per city, and like the laws, the rules, the regulations, what you can do online, what you can do offline. Like when you're in a market like that, I feel like you can't afford to not be experts because you constantly have to be up on it. Because if you put the wrong thing on the client's website, you can cost them tremendously. If you are not up with what's going on in the market, you can cause your client to fall behind all of their competition. So you really don't want an SEO agency that is not niched up into the cannabis market for a bunch of reasons. But honestly, the expertise that comes with somebody whose sole life, working life is literally lives, breathes, eats, drinks the cannabis market, specifically the dispensary market, means that their knowledge is just so far above, an agency that handles a multiple of different markets. That's what you're going to get with a niched up SEO agency.
Niched up, yeah, great book. Yeah. No, you're 100% right, and we can tell too. Like when we talk to a sophisticated dispensary whose marketing person has some SEO experience, like it's a totally different conversation.
Yeah,
it's basically a conversation of, okay, when do we start working together? After like 10 minutes, they say, oh wow, yeah, okay, we're looking at your website, it's great. Okay, you only offer one service, SEO, only to one type of customer, sophisticated dispensaries. Yeah, okay, we're gonna, it's basically how do you guys do it? Not can you guys do it?
Yeah, it's definitely paid off, that's for sure.
Well, shit, is that where we are today?
That's where we are today. That is where we are
trip.
today.
Your kitchen is still kind of fucked.
Kitchen's still being a kitchen. Yeah, that's pretty much brings us up to where we are today with our. Oh, and we have a podcast. So obviously.
Oh yeah, that's it. Not a big deal.
Which I did not want to do. I'm just being straight up honest.
Shocking.
Yeah, it was not
big surprise.
And yet here I am carrying the whole thing episode after episode.
As the host. The host of the podcast now. You got that's what fucking happened.
They totally got. I remember when you first were telling me, you didn't even ask me, you're like, we're going to do a podcast. I'm like, you mean you're going to do a podcast? Like,
no, motherfucker, we're doing it. Plural.
No, thank you. And here we are. So that's it. That's where we're up today. So you can see neither of us are of the technological career path in any aspect, really. I think we just both have a work ethic and we both enjoy a challenge. And I mean, I'm not taking any of the credit for this company whatsoever. Like, it's all Charlie. He built the whole thing.
You should, because
I don't do shit. I just point out all the mistakes you make and then we fix
them. Shut the fuck up.
That's what we do. But I mean, as long as you're willing to put in hard work, don't mind making a few errors here and there. And I also think you got to like it. If you don't enjoy it, don't do it. Because I will say this. I remember so Charlie would teach me how to do content outlines or whatever. This would have been for the company we worked with that had the marijuana cards. And so I would do them. And when you first start doing a whole new project, you don't really understand how that particular cog fits in the wheel that then fits in the bigger wheel that then like makes it all move around. You just don't have an understanding. You're not looking at a bird's eye view of everything. So I would do this like content outline and not really understand like how this worked. And then like, I don't know, a few weeks later, Charlie would be like, so I'd do the content outline, we'd give it to a writer would write it, and then either Charlie or myself would put it onto the website at that time, because Charlie also had to teach me how to do the back end of a website to put content on the website, because I didn't know how to do that either. But he would be like, a couple of weeks later, he's like, remember that content that we did for qualifying condition for a migraine? I'll be like, yeah, I remember doing that. He goes, look, I just want to show you where it's ranking. And then he'd pull up Google on the Zoom thing and he'd show me the page. And literally it was this page that I had created. Like, not like I did it all, but like I'd found all those keywords. And then I took it from the writer and I put it on their website, and it's literally on a Google search. And I remember just like, oh my God.
I could literally see your skull explode.
Yeah, like this is amazing. And like, oh, I get it now. And then like when we worked in publishing, like, yeah, you'd get the magazine in your hand at the end of the day, like, and it looked great because we worked with amazing designers, whatever. But you never really got much of a reaction outside of within your own like organization. A couple of times a client might say something, but like to physically see your work and to understand that like anyone on the internet can now see this, but not only that, but your client is going to click on Google and search something and their name is going to be at the top of that page. Like, it's like, oh my God, and it still doesn't get old. It's not something that like, because we started working on product outlines for a client of ours, and like to be able to see though when you type in a specific, like, I don't know, purple weed or whatever it might be, and to see your client's name come up towards the top or at the top of the page, it's still like, we did that,
It's still like pretty badass, right? Like,
yeah,
see that, then it gets addicting, and then you just want to do that for 14 hours a day.
And then you're like, oh, but this motherfucking client, this name I see all the fucking time is still ahead of my client. Okay, I need to figure out what I'm doing because I have to get my client above them. And they might not even be in the same market, but it doesn't matter because you see this particular name all the time and you're sick of it. And then you're like, how do I get to flip that? So
then
actually,
it's like personal.
yeah. But like to see the tangible results, like outside of the data, because everybody knows I hate the data. It is boring. I don't enjoy it. I don't, whatever. Outside of going, this is what we did. This is where you are. This is where you rank. This is your ROI, blah, blah, blah. Like, that's great. I'm sure the clients love that. But like actually physically seeing it come up on a Google search that cannot be manipulated outside of your hard work, as in your team and the hard work your team does. Like the gratification that you get from that is like, it's really cool. And then your client seeing it. And then I remember one client. Do you remember how you showed this one client that we had this whole presentation. We do this whole monthly meeting type thing where we go over all of the data, yawn fest, whatever. So we're going over all this data and Charlie brings up this one slide and it's like basically said, this is how much of your competition's market share or whatever it wasn't market share, of views we stole within the last month. And you could see how much we had taken from their competition. And this guy's like, fuck yeah. That was literally all he cared about, was that we had stolen it from his competition. Didn't care about the rest of the data.
And it was like at the very, very end of the meeting too.
Yeah.
It was like
I'm
5
sure
minutes left.
he cared about it, but like he wasn't enthusiastic about it. And then when you told him what we stole from his competitor, he was like, fuck yeah.
That was a learning experience, right? Like now we include that in all of our monthly reports.
Yeah. And that's fun. Like that's the fun part of doing what you do, seeing that.
Yeah.
Right.
And like working with cool people too. Like that's, it is a lot of fun. I don't think I could be doing anything else.
I would like to just retire, being honest with you.
I don't think I could ever retire. Well, I say that, but who knows? So anyway, hell of a ride, huh?
Yeah, it's been a fun time. Who knows where we'll be this time next year?
We do have some big things coming. Obviously, we can't say it right now, but we have some cool things in the works.
We do have a wonderful partnership with Mosaic.
That too. Oh, yeah. 100%. That's a great platform.
Yeah,
sure.
We love them. They're amazing. All right. Well, I think that sums up our journey to get here. So, yeah, just know that if you started out flipping burgers at McDonald's or, I don't know, plumbing or working retail, you don't have to stay there. You just have to put in some hard work, and you can basically come join us in the ranks of SEOs. Anything insightful to say before we leave?
No, like you don't have to have a technical background. Just get really good at one type of thing, one discipline, whether it's Google Ads, our cases, SEO, email marketing, SMS. Just get really good at one discipline. Just focus on one discipline and just be the best at it.
That's true. I would agree with that. All right. Well, that's it for now. We'll be back next week with another episode of Is Caz's Kitchen Finished or Not? Who knows? I guess we'll find out. I'm not a very patient person by nature, so the mere fact that I've not lost my mind yet is impressing even myself. Remember, you can reach us Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube. Please comment, like, subscribe, review. Let us know if there's anything you'd like us to cover, any questions that you have. And if not, then we'll be back same time next week with a whole new episode.
Peace.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of the High Rankings Podcast, brought to you by Dispensary-Growth, the preeminent SEO agency for dispensaries. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you found value in the insight and the tips we shared. If you did, please hit that subscribe button. And if you're feeling super generous, we would love it if you left us a review. If there's a specific topic you'd like us to cover in a future episode, or if you have any questions, you can go ahead and find us on LinkedIn or YouTube. We'll see you next time.